Right, hi guys. Next day, it's probably last week to you, but last night I glued that on. And having a look at it and putting the scope on, it's not quite as good as I thought high-wise. It's a little bit too high, but also there's sort of too much going on. So what I'm going to do is take this off, which is going to probably be a real pain, and cut it down so the top of that Piccaninny rail is flush with the top of that one. And in addition to that, I'm going to cut it in the center, 3D printer section. So I move this. Okay guys, so I got it off. Interesting to note that it was a lot easier to cut through the glue itself than actually peel it off the surface. So strong stuff, well, strong bond anyway. So take some photos of that, take some photos of this, and take them inside, put them on my Photoshop and work it out, spacings, where I want it, and how low. There's a moulded in line across here, which is a good start. I put that, that's almost perfect in fact. It does mean the gap along here will be very low, so either I have to cut that off, which I don't want to do because I don't want to lose that rail because there's a screw mount there. But what I could do is have this part, the front of it, a bit further up here, like so. But we'll see. So I'll take some photos and we'll move on. Okay guys, I'm going to try and show you how I do this. So I've just imported a single picture into Corel Photoshop. I've made a copy of the handle that was there, rubbed it out. Now I can just place it where I want, and just with the aid of, the stretching tools just gives me the ability to muck about. I realise it's not going to get thicker, but I can trim that later. I just want to see what sort of positioning I'm looking at. So if I take that down to that height, I'll take that back a bit. I've just received a couple of red dot lasers, one of which I could fit there, and it's got a pressure switch that goes down to the handle. I might do that. So something along those lines. I'm going to take off the complete picking rail off both bits. So here's the actual part of the handle I've already cut and sanded down. So I've got to work out what that profile is and make a piece that plugs in there, goes as far as I need it, work out the distance. And what I'll do is that'll have a plug in there. It'll also have a metal bar through it to give it strength. And on top, the Picatinny rail, I'll take off this, will come out a bit further. So I'll put a screw through into the 3D printer base, maybe even into the metal bar or whatever I'm going to use. So they will be like probably that far apart. So it's not a very big piece I'm doing. So I've got our basic shape. This is just the actual size of the void in there. That's the actual external size. There's a reason for doing it that way. Copy, flip, and stick. So that's it. Now the thickness of the walls in this thing is about, at the top it's about 2 millimeters, at the bottom it's about 1.5. So what I'm going to do, this is just to create the shoulder that it sits flush on. I'm just going to create a 2 millimeter wall, which is at this scale is 200, because I'm working 10 times the size, simply because SketchUp had the problem doing very small curves. Well, I found it had the problem doing very small curves. Anyway, so there's my shape. So that will just sit on the outside edge of that. So what I need to do is do the male part, that actual intercept, go into the hole, and that's very straightforward. And I'll drag that back a bit. So the way it is now, this is actually just this front part, this blue part is just being held on by this very edge. So what you need to do is create another profile in there and take that back to that first setting, and then detail it, delete it. So now you have a thicker edge. So you want to keep, that's the outside, that's the inside. What you need to do is get rid of these areas here. This is just for the benefit of the printer. Get rid of that, get rid of that. So if I delete that, you see right through it. But if I delete that, you're looking inside the piece. So there we have our initial profile piece. It's a, I don't know what they call it, a hollow piece. It's hollow inside, only the sides that are necessary, only the walls that are necessary are there. So what we'll do, go back to here, because I've done it 10 times its normal size, so I'm going to reduce that down to 0.10% of its size. So measure that again, that should be 25mm. It is, good. We'll say export as STL, thank you. Handle profile, yep. Go to Cura, open handle profile. Okay. Now of course, if we do it like that, we're going to have to print supports, and it's not necessary. So just click on it, go on that icon down there, and just pick a flat surface to print on, and that's it. It's done a preview. It's going to take 19 minutes to print. It's on our basic low quality. That's all we need at this time. So let's save it to our removable drive. Done. Saved as handle profile. Eject. Done. And pull it out. Stick it in the printer. So what I've done, what I'm deciding to do is I'm going to lower it. At the same time, I'm going to lengthen it. I'm going to put it about here. So I decided to 3D print myself an insert, which just clips in like that and like that, and you know, way too long at the moment. But what my plan is to cut this plastic just here, just before this little detail piece at both ends. So it'll be something like about there, which gives me just enough room on the front of this to put one of these laser sights I got. So I've got to modify this. So the first step is cut off the top Picatinny rail, because I've printed myself a new one. So that actually is longer than the handle. So the ends where the holes are will sit over the plastic here, and I can put a screw in and make it stronger. So cut off the Picatinny rail, then cut these off, and the reason I'm cutting off the Picatinny rail is to use this smooth surface on my grinder, so I can just push it in at right angles and it's done. Just because I want a bit of control and I don't want to damage anything, I'll just use my trusty X-Acto saw, which is the broken handle. These things are really good. They call them razor saws for a reason, because they're very, very thin bladed. And a little bit of clean up there to do there, not much. And as you know, if you're sanding a flat surface, you go in a circle. And if you go back and forth, you tend to rock and make an uneven surface. But so going in a circle, that's good. So what I'll do now is just get my scroll saw and roughly cut across there. Then I can push it up against my sanding disc on my angle grinder and get a nice finish. Done some cutting and grinding on this bit, so it fits there just like that. Bit of a gap, but I'll just have to fill it. I can't get it down level with that because there's an existing screw in there which I want to keep. So I'll just glue this to this side and this edge and that side to the other side. Glue it, keep it in place, make sure it's fine. And then when I want to, I can still take out all the screws and disassemble the rifle. The handle will be about that high now, so there's going to be a lot of cutting and grinding on this bit up here, but that's not a problem. I expected that. But first thing I'm going to do is get that fixed in place, and when that's in place and the handle's in, it's a pretty good straight line fit, so I'm not worried about it being twisted off one side or the other. So I will do that. Now guys, when you're doing stuff like this, always make sure you've got a stable base. So I'm just going to put this bipod on, so it's actually pushing down that way. So when I put this bit in, it'll just naturally sit back where I want it. It's pretty good, pretty straight. Yep. So I'll just get on with doing the gluing. So the usual thing. That's pretty held in there pretty fast already because this stuff is really sticky and gooey. And you can see I've got, I was trying to make that notch fit, but this screw hole is hitting on this little bit that protrudes out, and I want to keep that there for the screw that goes through the, and under this side we've got a big lump which I can just get my craft knife and pull off. And the rest of that I can just wait till it's dry and just, I actually found my knife with a nice square blade, and I can just go straight down like a razor, cut it straight off. Won't be two holes in the top end of the handles which correspond with holes in the rail. And if I look through this at an angle I can see the center line through the hole. So that's pretty good. Next step is to glue that on wherever it goes, right up about there. Pretty good. Yep, that will do. There we go. Done. So now I know where to glue my front grab rail. I've just glued the front grip on. There's nothing in there at the moment because I've got to take it apart. I've got to do more stuff. I'll find a bit of metal. But I think that looks pretty good. Bit odd, admittedly. But, the rail gets screwed on the top when this is all nice and dry and I'm ready to put it together. With all the cleaning up there. This area, I've actually, I'm going to redo this slightly, just make this a bit bigger. This piston, make it look a bit more chunkified. Okay, back again. Bit of judicious filing and stuff. Got that in place. Now, so I've got to fill those. I've got to put my magazine catch in. That's going to be a little tricky because the original has part of their pistol grip housing supporting that, so I'm going to have to custom build something, but I've got lots of little bits and pieces everywhere. I can make something up. Now, I was looking at changing this front. That's what I originally went for. It's alright. I'm not sure I really like it. Then it occurred to me, what about that on there? Looks alright, but it's a bit busy surface wise. So I went through the parts box, and that don't like at all. This is getting closer, but for some reason that one's very loose. But I like that, that's pretty good. But then sometimes you just go, yes. And what I'm going to do is pull this apart, take off that, have the barrel flush, make sure it's stable, and that's what I want. So, got the barrel open, pretty straightforward, simple thing. So what I want, I've decided I want the barrel flush with the front, perfectly flush. And looking at it very carefully, it looks like it's easy enough to just go around with the razor saw around here, just rest it on there, because that is still flush with the barrel. So I'm not going to lose anything. There'll be a small indentation around the barrel, because that collar is all I need to hold the barrel in place, because it just sits on two pins, one there either side, in here, and that's it. This just a floating ring around it. So get out my trusty razor saw and start just, and what you do is sort of the same thing with sanding, where you sand in a circle so you don't wear corners off. With this, when you're cutting something round like a tube, move the tube, turn the tube and go around, because what you want is the saw to always be going straight. If you just saw from one side, you've probably done it, piece of PVC pipe goes off to the side. And in this case, I don't want it to happen here, so I'm just going to take my time, right, almost through, and feel it starting to bite in and go through the other side. When it starts to dig in deep, just pull back and go to an area that isn't cut. There we go. And that's, I would think you'd have to agree, that's a pretty straight, good cut. Just going to give it a little quick sand. That's pretty heavy duty stuff, that's 80 grit. And then just my sanding sponge. There we go. This is a look I've always liked. Never done it before. Yeah, that's it. That's the gun.